on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com.
Mike Madigan runs the Democratic House floor for 30-plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Sticking on our conversations, time for our weekly hit with Ted Dabrowski, Wirepoints, and bridging from our A is for Activist re-education about the alphabet. This message from a teacher in District 203. That's Naperville.
Oh, yes.
And this dovetails nicely with what you just heard during the break from Jeannie Ives in her Breakthrough Ideas commentary. By the way, Naperville School District 203 paid Dina Nicole Simmons $10,500 for her 60-minute Zoom keynote address at its 2021 Equity Institute.
Oh.
It's $175 a minute. It's good. Good work if you can get it.
Yeah.
Being a race hustler, especially when you have people like that despicable Dan Bridges, the superintendent there. Grotesque figure. But, grotesque school board members, many grotesque parents. I guess it all fits. Thank you for reporting on District 203 anti-racist training. Conservatives that teach here, like me, are disgusted with the direction this district is heading in. I've taught 34 years, most of them in 203. I can tell you that minority students who land in our district have hit the jackpot. There is not a more kind, generous, loving bunch of teachers anywhere who continually bend over backwards to try and close the skills gap seen in many of our students. It's insulting to have to sit through training where we are being told we are racist. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is nothing more than a political agenda being pushed through by the current administration in Washington. Glad I'm retiring this year. Teacher in Naperville, District 203, who shall remain nameless, for fear of being
retaliation,
accosted by those despicable people I just mentioned. For more on K through 12 education in Illinois, particularly as the scholarship program animated by the tax credits passed several years ago is under assault by Jelly Belly, the same way a buffet line is. We're pleased to be joined again, as I said, by Ted Dabrowski, president of wirepoints.org. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. How are you guys doing?
Good. So the culturally responsive teaching standards just sort of piling on to what's already going on in K through 12 school systems around the state, particularly in Chicagoland, including in the suburbs. And so it seems to me that the pitch battle, the real opportunity for something positive or to retain something positive is to fight to maintain that tax credit scholarship at its current levels, right?
Well, that's right, and actually to grow it.
Yes.
It's become very obvious. It's become very obvious during this COVID that maybe that's the silver lining. You hate to look for silver linings in something like the pandemic, but the fact is that I think people around the state, in particular in Illinois, are realizing the power of the unions, the power of the administrations, right? Both of them. They're an oligopoly, right? They work together all the time to push their agenda, and much of that was keeping schools closed. And another big part of that is adding more and more of what you're talking about to the curriculum, just basically watering down their curriculum. So you've got to think that this is a watershed moment for the school choice movement. And the question is, will people organize and demand more or not? And but certainly being locked out of schools for so long and then watching the kind of movements that are happening, like the one by Dan Bridges, you've got to think that we've got to expand our school choice options, or people will do it anyway in some way, maybe by leaving the state.
And we know they're doing that.
Right. And I mean, what's your handle on where the tax credit scholarship fight currently stands?
I don't have a good finger on it, but I can tell you this: that they're going to be attacking it like crazy. The fact that this thing even got on there under Rauner is an amazing thing, and the fact that it survived this long is amazing as well. But it's going to be under massive attack, and how they managed to keep it is going to be a question of whether. And you're seeing more and more of the black community, the minority community, demand more of it. So the question is can the minority legislators speak up enough to keep it alive and hopefully not see it reduced even more from where it was before?
Well, and that's really a clarion call for their constituents to speak up, to put pressure on them. I mean, that's the thing about these school choice programs. They build constituencies because they provide opportunities, and we've seen this play out in Arizona and Florida and Milwaukee and Wisconsin, Indiana. And so that's what needs to happen here is people who are happy that their child is accessing a better education because of the scholarships. They need to be heard loud and clear from those in public office.
Well, Dan, it's a battle of messaging, right? Because we know the media controls everything, the political elite control everything. But now what's interesting is that a lot of the minority community saying, "I want my kids in school," and especially. I've worked a lot with the Latino community in terms of school choice, and they like the Catholic schools and the religious schools. And so, they're going to hear things from the media and the political elite that goes against what they're thinking. And so I think this could be a pretty good moment for the school choice movement. But again, it's a matter of organization and just how well our side messages that there needs to be more choices.
Now, recently, Wirepoints wrote an article about, lockdowns and how we compare to Florida. Do you want to tell us what that's all about?
Well, I'm actually in Florida as we speak, and it's fascinating.
Are you returning or no?
I'm returning.
Oh, okay.
I'm just in intelligence gathering.
Yes.
What's amazing is, since I came down here, the day I arrived, I turned on the TV, and that was the day that Governor DeSantis was pushing against the critical race theory in classes. So, tying that conversation, he's saying we're not going to push policies that haven't been vetted into our system. And at the same time, the place is open, and they've come to the realization that, and they've been at the realization that opening the economy is overall better than keeping it shut. Something that we haven't done in Illinois, but there's 20% fewer deaths in Florida than in Illinois over the whole pandemic, and that's despite having much looser lockdown rules.
Well, it starts with first principles. And Ron DeSantis has made clear what the first principle is in Florida, which is that you have a right to be employed or run a business. You have a right to work, essentially, as it is. And you have a right to go to school. And when you start from there, you generate very different policies than when you start from someplace else, like in Illinois, where you have a right to everything other than those two things, except and only when the government gives you the green light.
Well, that's number one, and there's two angles to this. The one you said is absolutely correct, but the other one is, if we shut everything down, what happens to lives and livelihoods? And there's another math or another science being calculated in Florida that you hurt people when you keep them out of schools, when you keep them out of their jobs, and you hurt people's lives when they can't get their mammogram checks or whatever cancer screenings they need. You hurt people's lives when you put more people into poverty. There's a lot of other science, or the other side of science is totally ignored in Illinois, where places like Florida actually, consider those things, especially since it's minorities and low-income workers who get hit the most when you get these shutdowns. Right? You look at the whole restaurant and bar sector. Illinois is sixth worst in the country when it comes to job losses in that sector, and that's a lot of low-income people that are getting whacked by being shut out of the economy.
Well, right. There's a good piece in the Wall Street Journal by University of Central Florida professor, actually, who's also at the Cato Institute. Services are where the trade action is. And he reminds that the U.S. is primarily a service economy. Services account for 79% of GDP, 82% of jobs. They constitute only 33% of all exports, but as the lines between manufacturing and services blur, there is more upside to service sector, quote unquote, service sector jobs. This is where the action is, and this is where some focus should be upon reopening.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a slam dunk. Anybody who who goes out and eats all the time sees who's working at these jobs, and we all enjoy going out and using the services in our country. So what we did, we actually ran the numbers from a year ago to from January to January, which are the latest numbers, and Illinois has lost 34% of its of those jobs. 215,000 jobs are gone, and so you're talking about a major displacement. These are probably the same families whose kids aren't in school because CPS has been shut down. It's a disaster, and I think our big failure on our side is our inability to message that and to make sure that the science and data of lockdowns was more destructive than the lives lost in COVID.
Well, messages require messengers, and that's what we lack in this state. It seems to me, present company excluded, but that's just not enough. Your colleague over at Wirepoints, Mark Glennon, wrote a really interesting piece about how the $1.9 trillion in funding money spend that was recently approved is really a massive federalization play, flood state and local governments with federal dollars, and then come the strings and the mandates and so forth. And so, replacing all those service sector jobs that you just described with just more government largesse in Illinois, where government is our main industry in this state. We're already a state that has more government jobs than manufacturing jobs. Might as well codify it with some federal help.
Yeah, this is, I think, Mark's piece is a very important piece because I don't think people are seeing it the right way. Again, we're back to messaging, and Biden and others will message this as COVID relief, but if we've run the numbers at Wirepoints. We did a report back a couple months ago how most states have managed to hold even in 2020, calendar 2020 versus 2019, and so they really don't need the 1.9 trillion more. But if you look behind the movement here of sending this money to states and cities, is hey, let's get the money there, let's spend it on the agenda that guys like Biden and Harris have, and let's see if we can make it permanent. Because once you start spending money on things like child tax credits and things like that, it's really hard to take away the following year.
Yeah, it's interesting though, right? Yeah, but you build a constituency around that benefit, and yet the left is so good at doing that, and we struggle so much to build a constituency around a benefit, the tax credit scholarship program we were just talking about, because they constantly trumpet their government-centric insights and benefits, right? And we can't get the whatever constitutes the Republican Party or just center-right people to speak with one voice on something as much of a slam dunk winner as providing choice for people that don't have choice in K through 12 education. It's remarkable.
Well, yeah, and so to bring this back to Illinois, you still don't see the voices. You're starting to hear a few Republicans start to speak up on some things, but it's not done with the strength and the conviction that's needed. I think the Republicans have lost so many seats that they're cautious to speak strongly for the fear of losing more. But that what I argue is that perpetuates even more losses.
I have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose. I mean, except my little seat, and that's what they really care about. I mean, it's such a tell, right? I'm risk averse, and I have nothing to protect. It's remarkable.
Yeah, and so when you think about school choice, it'd be awesome to hear a very strong voice. It doesn't matter. Frankly, I don't care what side, right? It should be It should be the Black Caucus and those who support it, or from the Latino Caucus with whatever Republicans want to join in. It should be a very firm, strong voice. But no, you don't hear it.
All right, since I'm always such a nattering nabob of negativism regarding the great state of Illinois, the land of Lincoln, for at least the next 5 minutes. Anything positive that you want to punctuate so that it's not all doom and gloom?
Are you okay there, Dan?
No, I mean
right.
for Ted, not for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, Dan's willing to listen a little bit. Well, first of all, look, the COVID data is fantastic, right? So we have somebody who doesn't want to listen to the COVID data, but I think that's a place where there might be more and more pressure on Governor Pritzker. But when you got this collapse in the numbers, and you see what's happening in like places like Florida, places opening up, it's it's great. And now what we have to do is continue the pressure. Pritzker's going to try to keep his additional phases and things like that, but I don't think it's going to work. I think he's going to have to buckle. Not only that, if he's planning re-election, he's got to open up more. So that's one piece of good news. The other good news, it's a bridge.
Okay.
The other good news is really not good news, so maybe I shouldn't say it. But
say
no
it.
tax,
Just come on. Come on. Bring it on.
tax hikes
In Illinois, even the good news is bad news.
Ayo.
All right, that's right. Go
well,
ahead.
when the federal government floods us with money, you got Pritzker and Harmon saying we don't need a progressive tax hike right now. So
right
the good news is no tax hikes. But that may not last long if we can't change things.
Ted Dabrowski, President of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org. Ted, thanks as always. Enjoy sunny Florida.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey Top Pro Answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Jim Keene Jr. of the Mail House Inc., a family-owned